Suwatiko manyaku manyawata manyada. Wamagari.
So again, my name is Darius Enos. I am with the Tribal Historic Preservation Office. And the third thing I want to talk about is what the Tribal Historic Preservation Office does in terms of the history and things. So that's the third thing I'll be talking about. So this is me. Like I said, I like the spotlight. And I just want to impress upon you, like you may have heard my name before. I worked at the newspaper. I was an intern there, and that's one of the articles I wrote. I was also on the Tribe Youth Council a long, long time ago. It was a lot. I like photography. I like to take pictures. That's just one sample of my work. I like to take selfies, and I have a whole Instagram with selfies because I think I'll talk about the next slide why I do that, what my thinking is with that. But also taking pictures of things that are culturally relevant too. I like this is a picture of a painting that's on display at on Talking Stick Resort Casino in the where they do the conferences. So in the conference area, there's a bunch of beautiful paintings, beautiful artwork displayed of our culture. And one thing I want to impress is some of these things we don't even know about because they're not done. This depicts a ceremony, and they're not. You hardly see them. They're done in some areas, but people generally, these things are not taught in school. But I will discuss some of the other topics that we kind of may or may not know. Okay, so this is a picture of New York. Why would I put a picture of New York? When I was younger, I wanted to go to New York because of all these idealistic things, like there's a lot of people there. It's very like a metro. It's a city. You got to do a lot of things. It's full of what people today consider culture. And I still want to go, but when I was younger, I was influenced by the media and what was put out. And when I was younger, that was a certain demographic of people who were basically European, American, white, and that kind of had an influence on how I thought of myself and how I thought of my people. And so I kind of had a bad outlook on myself and my people as a Native person. That's because I didn't really know much. All I knew was that there was us and there was them, and we're not part of them. But we weren't reflected in that media circle where you see background and shows, or you see any people of color. You hardly see that. So that kind of had an influence on me. And so that's kind of why I chose this picture. Is I guess I was desiring maybe some culture of my own. And fortunately, I did start to learn that we have our own things to be proud of. And through, like I said, I was on the youth council when I was younger. Through interacting with elderly people. Some of my teachers include Jim McSeek. He's also called Adrian Hendricks. Aaron Sabori, and different people, different leaders in the community that have gone and passed on, and Joaquin Butt and Joyce Hughes Butt, and just a lot of people that I was able to talk with and learn about our own history.
Right.
And I want to emphasize, our history is told orally. All of the stories we know are oral stories. There's no written form of them. There shouldn't be a written form of them, but there is academically. A lot of people researched them and wrote them down. But the primary method that carried on the stories from thousands of years was orally. And we had the resources to where our brains could form and grow and carry those stories, and we can pass them on to generation to generation to generation. So like I said earlier, we have our own things to be proud of. This is a depiction of formerly Pueblo Grande ruins. This is what it looked like. And before I get more into it, I just want to show you this picture. This is a archaeological site near the Phoenix Airport that you can go to visit now. But this is a depiction of what it looked like. We had our own buildings, we had our own structures, our own ways of life, our own things that we developed. And this is where I started to become proud as a person, knowing that we have things that are equally grand and special and unique, and especially in this area, the Southwest is very harsh. You know, our ancestors were able to carve out a way of life for us to survive. So this presentation is kind of messy. This is supposed to be a video of I can pull it up, sorry. About the resort. Have any of you guys been to the resort? The Sheraton Grand Wild Horse Pass Resort? So if you've been there, you know the grand entryway, and that depicts our creation story. So you may wonder, where the heck do we come from as a people? And science can tell you, we came from Africa. Have any of you guys heard of that theory? So that's way, 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 way ancient of ancient people that they talk about. But when we're concerned here in this land, where did we get our peoplehood and how did we get our peoplehood? That is what our kind of like our sovereignty comes from, is our people. Like, how do we become a people? How do we establish our history here? So the video was of the entryway at the Sheraton Grand Wild Horse Pass, and it depicts the creation story of the Creator creating us and having a elder brother take care of us, instruct us, and there is different phases of that story. Somewhere it's destructive, somewhere we are destroying elder brother, and it's really a good way to kind of understand where we've been. I'm sorry the video is not coming up, so I apologize. But I encourage you guys to go and look at that. It's a beautiful structure, a beautiful place, and it kind of makes me proud, just like being here in this facility as well. So the Creator gave us the plant, the shipway bush, and in our oral stories, it says that it's one of the first plants given to the people. And scientifically, it is actually one of the oldest plants in the world. So that validates our oral history, that it is old. Our heritage here is ancient. This is supposed to be a video of ants, but it's not going to come through, so I apologize. But just imagine ants crawling around. Ants. How do I explain this? It's in our oral histories. A lot of our part of carving out a way of life was establishing the Moai, the clan system, which were a part of the ants. There was a white ant and a red ant, and they are one of the strongest creatures in the world. They are able to carry things like 100 times their weight and able to build things, and they work together. So when you saw that Pueblo Grande platform earlier, the picture I showed you, that they chose the ants to mimic. They mimicked the ants. Their work ethic was like ants. And we chose, as a people, the ant, the Creator chose us to kind of be like the ant, to work hard, to work together and create a life. And part of the oral history, I won't get into it because I'm not too familiar with it, but there's a book called The Short and Swift Time of Gods on Earth by Donald Barr, who is one of many anthropologists that studied us and our people. And he writes more about this, how the ant people, Creator, I think he hid us under the earth and we came out, and the first people that came out were known as the ant clans, and they were the toughest warriors from underground, and we are those people. And we're not taught this, we're not taught it in this way, because we don't have, I'll talk about why later, but it's something that you should be taught and need. So I'll combine our function of what our office does before I get more into the history. So the Tribal Historic Preservation Office functions under the authority of Section 102 of the National Historic Preservation Act. NTIPL ensures the identification, detection, and preservation of historical sites within the Hillary Indian community and Aboriginal lands of the Yakamadakum and Peepash. Coordinates government-to-government consultations of activities impacting cultural resources, attends to repatriation interest under authority of tribal, state, and federal regulations, and works with federal agencies, Arizona tribes, and local governments to protect and preserve cultural resources. So that's a lot of words. I apologize, but that's our function. If you have any questions, again, let me know. Feel free to jump in. And I'll expand on what Aboriginal land is. So this is our community as we know and love it. It's this little sliver of land just south of the city of Phoenix. It extends from Coolidge all the way to Goodyear, east and west. And it's basically our reality now. But our actual history extends beyond the creation of these borders of this political territory, and that is our Aboriginal land. Before I get into that, I'll talk about this concept, Himdag, as a network. How many of you guys know what a network is?
Why?
Can you explain? No, up there.
Oh, it's something that didn't connect.
Yeah. Something that's connected. So we deal with, as right now, as people, we deal with networks such as our phones are connected to a network. Different companies, Verizon, Cricket, T-Mobile, computers, your works, wherever you work may be its own network. But I am presenting you this idea that our Himdag, all of these things you see in a museum, anything of cultural significance, as part of a network that links you thousands of years into this area to your ancestors. So that's kind of my idea of what I want to present. And hopefully it makes sense to you guys, to the young people. And I also want to emphasize that the network has different purposes, different functions, like the ancient of our ancestors. They had a network too, but it served a different function, a different need. And then our Ruben, who I'll talk about as well, they have a different network. In fact, if we have a different function, then we have a different function, being what our reality is now dealing with non-autumn and the political setting that we are under. But the important thing is to know that there's a network that we can tap into, we can talk about, and it's not just things that you can see, it's things that you can feel, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. This is a picture of do presentation mode. This is a picture of the river. Hold on, set that thing around that. Sorry, lesson. This is a picture of the river in 1901, and as you can see, people crossing it. At this time, the river was pretty shallow, and because of the building of the dam upstream, and people building agricultural areas that pretty much those took away from our own crops to grow. But at this time, this is what the level of the water looked like. You can walk across it, and it's stretched a mile wide in some parts. And we know that this is from the point of view of Blackwater because of the mountain book, the walk. Then there's a song associated with that. Song from the Oreo series, I believe. And we have part of the, like I was saying earlier, the network. Those songs are part of the network to your ancestors. The series, there's a lot of series. They're not just one song. They stand together with other songs, different series of songs. So there's Oreos, there's Blackbirds, just different series of songs associated. And like I said, you can expand your knowledge and network by learning the songs, learning the dances to the songs. Then, with this picture, I want to emphasize the importance of water to our culture. Everything has to do with water and the mixing of water and earth. It grows plants. It makes people able to grow baskets. Enables us to grow, do the pottery that is necessary to store grain. And also the functions of ceremonies. Our children, when they're first born, they are committed to the earth by taking of Kibis, of the blood, and make our structures with it, our housing. So it's very important. It grows our crops. But that's something I just want to emphasize. Again, you can tap into the network if you like the songs and the dances and everything like that. Okay, so I was talking about the Aboriginal territory before. So the time period, there was like the ancient of ancients, think megafauna, people coming here and during the Ice Age period and hunting these huge Ice Age animals. And once the Ice Age stops, the earth started warming up. This is when we see those structures that I showed you earlier, when they started building and acting more like ants, working together, creating a religion, digging extensive canals, and this is known as kind of the Himdag period. So, have any of you guys heard of the word Hohokam? Probably have. There's Hohokam Stadium, then there's Hohokam, there's a hotel called Hohokam Hotel, and there's just a lot. Oh, sorry. But that is a derogatory term. We believe it to be derogatory because when non-Akum started digging in our area, establishing their lives, building their homes, they discovered artifacts that were arms and our ancestors, and they were asking us what those things were, and we said Huga, those are Huga, and they misinterpret that and tried to speak out them and just said Hohokam. So it's kind of the lazy way of saying Huga. God forbid tonight, if I pass on for whatever reason, I would be Hoogan. I would join the Hoogam. And that is our belief. And they basically, their artifacts are found all throughout this area. Some of these maps may be different depending on who made these maps, their understanding at the time. But these are the ancestors of the Ottoman. And they built extensive canals, they built a lot of intricate pottery, and they basically that is their area. And some of the maps extend all the way into the mountains of Mexico, where the mountain Ottoman are in Mexico. So it kind of just depends on who's making the map and what time period, their understanding of the archaeology. Archaeologists, and academics do not, sometimes there is a period they didn't associate us with the Hoogans. There's a period where in 1450, they say the Hoogam died off. But and then in 1676, the 1600s, the first recorded Spanish person came into the territory and was basically they concluded that we weren't the Himdag, we weren't these people. So from 1450 through the 1600s, there's this period where we don't know what happened, they say. But we kind of do know what happened. Just things started changing within ourselves politically. And there's also more to that, which I'll talk about. Part of our people are also the Maricopa people. They are known as the Totava culture. This is a huge bird season culture that extends from the Gila Bend area all the way to California. So they are known as the Totava people. Their network is the bird culture network, we would say. They are associated with the Yuma tribes and even farther into the California tribes as well. So the Aboriginal territories that the Gila River Indian community claims, this is pretty much how big it is for the time period, like 881 to 1450, so even farther. That's what at least the academics say. Our claim to the area goes back 14,000 years, farther than what the academics said. So again, water is really important. It enables these types of buildings to be built. They're known as kind of boxes. And this is just maybe the third story that's sticking out of the structure. It's known as Casa Grande ruins. Have any of you guys been there? Okay. So you guys are familiar with it. Does anyone know the traditional name of Casa Grande ruins? It's Sylvan Baki. And that is from also Elders and Donald Barr's book, Short Swift Time of Gods on Earth. This Vaki represents the fight of when we had political strife internally, and basically the kind of like the changing in culture from Ugam to Atam. And like I said again, this is probably the third or fourth floor of the structure. It's underneath. It was excavated, but then it was recommended to build it, to cover it up, to protect it and preserve it. But this much is standing. There are a lot of other structures like this all throughout Arizona that are associated with ancestors. Again, the Pueblo Grande structure, this is a depiction of what it is. And it still is. You can see the ruins there currently where it stands near the Sky Harbor International Airport. There's also this structure, the Bashbagoa, which is an Apache term, but this is a moving site in San Carlos. So it kind of just shows the extent of where these structures are located and the extent of the culture our Himdag built. How many of you guys knew that San Carlos was Himdag territory? Some of you guys did, but it's kind of unfortunate that we don't have that much knowledge as a people, that we have to go to certain elders or read off of certain research books that this is our territory, these are our structures. And in this area, there are other structures like this. They have rooms and the amount of 200 rooms like this, some 500 rooms like this. In our office, the Tribal Historic Preservation Office, consults with companies, private landowners to preserve these areas. This is Mesa Grande Cultural Park, Himdag site, and it is was just recently renamed Studak Mohor Baki, like literally Monday. So it's allowing the tribes to reconnect with these sites, and for a long time academically, these sites and people that are academics didn't allow us to have the connection to these sites that we do now. But things are changing, luckily, that we get to bring in these sites and have a say in how they interpret these sites. Some of the artifacts that we find include the Gila Buff, and these are at the sites. These are common sacred objects that we find, from shells, working shell etching to pottery, mimicking intricate designs of nature, of the environment, and also the usage of spirituality. This is a pallet. This part of a pallet is broken, but they were used extensively and they're found extensively at these sites. And, like I said, they depict the environment and the culture and the animals of the time. How many of you guys associate our culture with fish? We don't think about, because of the river, there was a lot of fish that we lived off of. And that's depicted in these pottery artifacts and the birds that came along with the resource of the water. Shell etching is done nowhere else in the world but here. I think one tribe does do the bracelets in Africa, but nowhere else does a tribe do etching except here in the Southwest. So that's part of your culture, and you tap into a network of culture, of spirituality, and you see these things, you should have reverence for them and understand that they come from a time, place where they were able to work for these things and incorporate it into their daily lives. You take for granted the red pigment, right? Where do they get red pigment? It's only found in certain areas. Some of these places are on the reservation. Some of these places are off the reservation, where you saw Beshmagoa in San Carlos territory. Those pigments are found there. The sourcing of the shell not only comes from Mexico, the Sea of Mexico, they also come from the Western oceans. So the extent of these items are very far. Before I get into this, just double check that I have anything else to talk about, like a slides there.
I have a question about the pigment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is it through plants or is it dirt?
The pigment is minerals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's either red ochre or not congrats. I'm forgetting the name, but it's a mineral. Yeah. If anyone knows the mineral, hematite. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's red hematite. So the stuff you find in Sedona, it'd be that, and then also there's sources at mountains and like San Carlos and Safford in that area. That's where they got it.
Okay.
Count.
So before I go on about the pie, this is what is it called? I'm sorry, I'm English, but Montezuma's Castle. Thank you. Sorry. And that is also, we associate ourselves with this. It's like a dwelling in the side of a cliff, and then it's something for us to be proud of. And it's our ancestors. This is a Spanish armor found in the Superstition Mountains. It's on display at the Superstition Mountain Museum. And I wanted to talk about this because we hardly talk about the Spanish period. The Spanish came to the country when they first set land. It wasn't a good time for the natives there. And when they went back to Spain and they were figuring out what to do with the natives there and with the whole territory, they made a declaration that all of the land that is found by the explorers, it is owned by Spain, by the Spanish crown. And their mission was to change the religion to the Spanish religion. And we have stories where we rebelled against these people because of their mistreatment. We were kind of welcoming, we're welcoming people up to a certain point where we start getting taken advantage of. Then we started finding that. So I'm relaying to you a story that was told by an elder that when the Spanish were here, they were treating one of the women wrong. And we ended up killing the Spanish people. And I was told that they put the armor in a cave somewhere. So this is really a unique, kind of special thing, kind of validates that story that I was told. But this was found in this cave of the Superstition Mountains. And we do not let people, we're not passive people. Even though we lost a lot of things, I think that story emphasizes that we are not somebody that lets step over us, and we're not going to let people treat us wrong. They got them that slide. So the Spanish came, right? They treated us bad, and then the land started becoming American land through the Treaty of Guadalupe. And in between that time, the European settlers started coming, and through the Desert Land Act, the government guaranteed land and water if you could cultivate your land for 4 years. Then you can claim title to that land. So these are American people coming from the east to west. It's known as the land grab and the great westward expansion. And that affected our land base so much that we lost a lot, and the water with it as well. That's why our water started to become down to people that were there because of that legislation. So part of the pie in that legislation was the land that people wanted and the resource of water that people wanted. That affected us. Those structures where they're big and they're grand, we believe that we traveled from the hot areas to the cooler areas when needed. We didn't just stay in one place. We were more mobile than we are now because we knew where to find different things. How many of you know of the Arizona grape? How many of you guys think grapes are from like Europe or something, or France? there is a grape that is native to this area that our people know about, and that is in the San Carlos area. So there's a lot of things that we need to rediscover and rematriate ourselves with. And that's kind of my intention of the idea I want to express. And our voice with the establishment of America in this area, our governments got dwindled down to Indian agents. And they were the big decision makers during the time that America was expanding. Our military force was used to protect those people coming, the European settlers from the Apaches. They were scouts, and they knew those areas where we don't associate ourselves with anymore. They were tracking Apaches in areas that they say we aren't associated with, but how can we know those areas if we aren't associated with those areas? So they benefited from that, our knowledge, and we don't acknowledge it nowadays. The artifacts, there's a period of time where as the city was growing, artifacts were found, sites, old village sites, and people relished these. They coveted them. They were like treasures to be on display, and a lot of them are now in people's attics, and they're like collector's items, and that's really rude for us because they're a part of the way of life lying, and we're part of burying. People who live rich lives and were buried in a respectful manner, their items dug up and carried off into museums and stored away. And our office returns those items where we can, claim them if they're associating with a funerary site, and human remains as well. The human remains discovered were also collected as items to be on display, and that's another slice of the pie that is taken away from us. And also, finally, language as well through the boarding schools. For Native Americans, the federal government invested $27 billion through the boarding school system for natives to be disenfranchised from their Aboriginal territories. It was a real investment. In the 1800s, it cost $1 million to fight the natives, and their heads were also for sale, and that became too much. It was an economic investment to just take their kids, send them to boarding schools, and assimilate them and disassociate themselves from their lands. So I always tell my nieces and nephews it's important to learn the language. It's something that was systematically taken away from us with the intention of us not knowing where we came from and not associating ourselves with those areas that I was talking about and those sites. And what you do when you learn your language and your songs and culture, you connect yourself to that network that is ancient. It goes back far, far, far. And these foods we don't talk about, they helped grow our minds. They were the healthiest of healthy foods. A lot of the foods you see at the health stores, those are Uligo foods. My favorite thing is talking about the jojoba. Jojoba is found at the site, it's a plant. And the way I know about jojoba is because it's in some people's shampoos. It's kind of like a luxury item that's in shampoos. But that's a Uruguayan thing. And I believe that they took care of themselves and wanted live their very best life. And I think that's what they want us to be as well. We just have to rediscover these food items and this history. It's just sitting there for us to know about. And so this is the, like I said, our land base now, currently. And that's kind of just a brief history of Gila River. If you have any questions, let me know. It's not that much we wanted. But I have some other artifacts that I can show you this. So a lot of the artifacts found at sites depicted animals. This is one of the snake shell etching. And anywhere you go where you see in the Aboriginal territory, you may find shells, you may find beads, broken pottery. A lot of these things are out there. We ask that you leave them in place if you find them. Let our office know maybe, you might already know. But there are sites in Phoenix that have these items. Again, we want them left in place if we can, undisturbed. So, Oogam bust as well. Again, depicting the red hematite. Stone sensors. The knowledge to make these isn't, we don't have it in our, it's not in our network anymore. And we hope that one day somebody can recreate these stone sensors. Some of them are associated funerary objects, so we do rebury them. Some of them are just sacred objects. They are, you can request access to them here at the Heritage Centers. But they are sacred objects. They depict the life and times of the people, and they're a part, had various uses, spiritual uses, maybe everyday use as well. But the time itself it took to build these things is something to think about. And I think that, like I said earlier, everything starts with water. I think the flow of water was probably a helped in building these things, making these things, carving these things out. Earlier, you saw the broken stone palette. Here is some full pieces. These are very beautiful pieces. Some of these pieces are spiritual use, maybe some are everyday use. They could hold the paint, they could hold some smoke, some sponge smoke. Again, the way to build these things, how to make these things is out of our network now. But I have to say, I think through prayer and meditation, maybe that it can come back to us. And that's kind of part of the network too that we don't talk about. It's the spiritual part. Having the ancestors access you yourself how to build these things. So after the Hooverville culture, the Hooverville people is us. And some of these pictures depict the way of life at the time, their use of the networks at the time. The reason why a lot of non-outcomes took our artifacts, it was a grab because they thought we were going to die out as a people. They thought we were going to be better done with the boarding schools assimilating us and our land taken away and us not knowing our language. But lo and behold, we are here today able to express our culture. It's, like I said, it seemed very little, but we are able to do it. It's still being carried on. A lot of young people desire to carry it on. And you kind of just have to ask yourself, how much are you willing to take and sacrifice to do these things? Some of these things, like I said, the purpose was different. These people had a different purpose and how to live everyday life than us. But carrying on the culture was important. Here's pictures of the Peeposh, some of the Peeposh people. They had a war party that protected there's an Indian agent who was Peeposh, and he was part of the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and he kind of kept, but he was the police at the time for the tribe, and he had a war party as well, some scouts that probably protected the European settlers. And Ida Redbird up there, she's a famous potter, and they are part of our community, and they have their own network and culture, and they're just as beautiful and cool to see.
This way.
They're known for their posh, black on red pottery, very shiny pottery. That you see it. There's some on display behind the stairs. Pretty unique. I think they actually use a rough rock to do it. So, to have it that shiny is really something special to think about. And again, with water being so important, without water, we can't really do these types of things. Sources of clay as well is important. That's probably out of our network as well as the people. Some people may know where sources of clay are. And I encourage you to seek that information. This is again a picture of the Gila River in 1907. And you know it's facing the District 4, District 2 area because of Totava Block, which is again another mountain in the song series. All of these things have names and are able to tap into elements. Okay, so this is kind of old. I forgot to update this, but Barnaby Lewis is our former tribal historic preservation officer. He recently retired, and Ray Litt Williams is the acting tribal historic preservation officer, and agricultural resource specialist. And Larry Benali, he's now but he is our archaeological confined specialist, and we appreciate his expertise and the archaeology of the area. So before I finish, the temple offices, they use a law that enables us to speak on some sites that are special to us, of cultural significance, and during the other law, the NACRA laws, and the Arizona Bureau of Discovery laws, we are able to speak for sacred objects and objects of cultural patrimony and human remains and associated funerary objects. So that's what our office does. We consult on how to best preserve these sacred sites, and also if projects cannot be avoided, we make sure that the items are returned to the tribe. This is done extensively. The Tribal Historic Preservation Office, the Gunner Donation Auction, and the South River Human Rights Community community all work together to manage the areas that are open. So that's what our office does too. Any questions, concerns? I don't want to hear it on Facebook. Just kidding. Go ahead, go. But I appreciate you guys for coming. If there's not any questions or concerns, have a good night. I appreciate you guys. Hopefully you learned something. And I hope you tap into the network. Wayne.
Ko manya wo chamanya